Hi guys, this is another Star Wars The Old Republic free-to-play option ability guide. This one for the Telekinetics Jedi Sage. The purpose of this video is if you would like to play a Telekinetics Jedi Sage, this will tell you how to do it effectively, given that you only have 2 quickslot bars. And that is 24 ability slots. Jedi Sages are a little different from some of the other classes in that they fit very tight with no room for kind of error, as it were, in terms of using only those 2 quick slot bars in the event that you don't feel like spending any money to expand to 3 or more. But there's not a strict way that I'm going to tell you to go about fitting everything in, because of the fact that some of the other classes there's a kind of an art to doing it, whereas with the Sage it's a little bit more a matter of your preference. So it's tight but a little bit easier. So how do we fit everything in as a Jedi Sage Telekinetics spec? Well, when we start the game, we're going to have a number of abilities on our quick slot bar. We're going to have Saber Strike, we're going to have Double Strike, we're going to have Project, we're going to have Meditation, we're going to have Quick Travel, and maybe something else that I'm forgetting. Take Quick Travel off the bar, save that slot. It's not necessary to be on the bar. I don't put Quick Travel on any of my bars. With all of the bars I have, I'm not free to play myself. I don't have it on there. A lot of other people don't either. It's not necessary. When you want to use Quick Travel, you press P. It is in the ability catalog that pops up. It's an ability you use once in a while, and you are not in combat. It's fine to not have it on your bar. Another thing that you will be doing is when you train Sprint at level 15, this is a set it and forget it ability. You turn Sprint on when you first get it, and then you never put it on your bar again. This is different from Force Speed, which you will have on your bar at all times. But Sprint, it just makes you move faster out of combat. Again, if you need to get at it, just press P. It's in the ability catalog, but it's set it and forget it. Not necessary to be on your bar. You're going to want to consider taking Heroic Moment off of your quick slot bar. This is an ability which every class has one, and it gives you some special survival skills for when you're in a very tough spot, when you bit off more than you can chew. But it's an ability which is not necessary to have on the quick bar all the time. It has a 20-minute cooldown, and honestly, you might use it once every couple of days if you play a lot. Depends on how good you are. It depends on if you are trying to go into areas which are too high level for you. But for the most part, you don't need it. It's the kind of thing, the way that most people use it is they only really use it when they come across a boss, and they try once and they die, and they try twice and they die. Well, as a free-to-play player, what you might do is to save that slot, not have it on your bar, and then if you find that you're having trouble with the boss, take something else off that you don't use very much and just put Heroic Moment on there just for that fight. And that'll be all you really need to do. At level 28, you'll see an ability called Tumult. Just don't train it. For one thing, it's melee. In your Jedi Sage, you should not be using melee attacks anyway. For another thing, it's a particular type of ability of which every class has one, which is useful only against incapacitated or stunned, weak, standard, or strong targets. The thing is, it's a strong ability with high damage. You really want to be using it against elite and champion enemies, but you can't. They're immune to it. And so it's a kind of ability that I never buy on any of my characters. I do not consider it worth the money. I think it's a waste. I'm sure there's many others that feel the same way. You can honestly just ignore it. If you really want to try it out and throw it on there, go ahead. But you know, you should take it off, I would suggest. Double Strike. Once you hit level 10 and you choose Jedi Sage, take that off too. Again, it's a melee ability. There's never a reason to use Double Strike where you couldn't be using something else that would be better instead. Don't use Double Strike. Take it off your bar. It saves you a slot, and it's something you don't need. So now, with other classes, what I'd be telling you is, here's a list of abilities that whenever you run out of space, pull one of these off. I'm not going to do that with Jedi Sage because everything kind of fits. Barely, but it fits. Where you're going to have trouble is in fitting a couple of abilities on your quick bars that you're going to want. You're going to want meditation, which allows you to regenerate health rapidly while out of combat. This will make your questing much more quickly, much less grindy, rather. It's just kind of, every class has such an ability, and it's a common thing. What you do is you get into a fight, you take some damage, you use this before the next fight. It's just, you use it all the time. You want it on there. Another thing you'll want on there is speeder. The speeder is another thing where once you get your speeder at level 25, your mount, basically every fight you are going to fight a thing, and then once the fight's over, you're going to want to get on your speeder. You're going to want a key for that. And so this is another ability which is used all the time. And to fit these things in there, you're going to have to give something up. You're going to have to give something up. So what are you going to give up? I'll give you some options because it's going to depend on the play style that you choose. The first thing you might consider giving up is project. The project is an ability which is really much more a Jedi Shadow ability than it is a Jedi Sage ability. You can certainly use it, but there's not a whole lot use for it in either telekinetics or balance spec, really, as a Jedi Sage. These specs are designed around other attacks. Other attacks are getting buffed and made stronger and made to synergize with each other, while project is just kind of there, a remnant from when you were level 2 and didn't have anything else to use. You can seriously consider taking this off. It's not necessary. Another thing you could consider is taking off benevolence and deliverance. Benevolence and deliverance are heals. Now, it's useful to have heals, even if you're not healing Spect, which is the seer tree, because it's useful in combat. It can really help you survive a situation you otherwise wouldn't if you have some heals hanging around. It can help you to heal yourself while out of combat more quickly instead of having to use meditation, which takes a little bit more time. At the same time, your DPS as a telekinetics Sage. So you might say, you know what, I'm willing to give up deliverance, I'm willing to give up benevolence to fit other things on there which are more useful to me. It's up to you. Other things you could give up, which I would recommend more than the healing, in all honesty, quite by a considerable margin, would be Cloud Mind and Rescue. Cloud Mind is an ability which lowers your threat. So when you're in a battle and the enemies are all fighting you, if you cast Cloud Mind, many of them might start to attack your companion or something else instead. It's a pretty useful ability for operations if you somehow take too much threat away from the tank and the big giant monster starts attacking you. But in leveling, it's really not that necessary. Maybe kind of treat it like heroic moment, where if you find that there's a place that you're having a lot of trouble with drawing a lot of aggro from different mobs, maybe try Cloud Mind, swap it off for something. But generally speaking, you don't really need to worry about it, and you can take it off. And Rescue is an ability which is really more of a PvP ability, and really more of an ability for your Jedi Seer, for the healing Sage Spect. There's some things you can do with it. It's kind of fun to play around with, but it's not something you strictly need. I would say if you need a spot, take it off. put something else in there instead. So that's really that's really basically what it comes down to in terms of how to fit everything in there. So now we're just going to go over a pretty basic telekinetics spec, a build. It's not necessarily the best one. It's not the only one, but it's a pretty standard one, and it's one which should work for you as you're just getting to know the game. You'll get your first ability to to put a points into the tree at level 10. Let me go back and say one more thing briefly. I should have said that you can also consider taking Mind Crush off. Mind Crush is much more for the balance tree. I can't think of a good reason necessarily for a Telekinetics Sage to be casting Mind Crush, so it's probably a good idea to consider removing that. Okay, moving on to the spec again. At level 10, you'll get your first points. So I'm just going to tell you how to put these in level by level. Just when I say I'm going to say the levels for the first few, but then you'll just get the idea. When I get to the next level, I do this. When I get to the next level, I do this. And I'll bounce up and down sometimes just because that's the way it works to most efficiently and effectively make a spec. Just trust me, this is probably the best way to do it. And also keep in mind that when you are going ahead, and making your build, you're not necessarily going to fill in every single line all the way. Your goal is to get to the best skill in the tree and then fill in supporting things in other areas. So at level 10, you're going to want to pick Mental Longevity, and then at level 11, you'll get it again. That gives you more force, which means you can cast more spells. Next, Clamoring Force 3 times. This gets you to level 14, and when you hit level 15, you will throw in Mind's Eye. At level 16, you will get Concentration 1 and 2, and then moving over to Disturb Mind 1 and 2 after that. Now at level 20, you'll get Telekinetic Wave, which is an ability which you get to put on your bar, and again, it should fit. If you need room, you can take one of those other things off, which I mentioned above. After you get Telekinetic Wave, you'll hit level 21, Psychic Projection. Now we'll move down, and we want to put 2 points into Inner Strength, levels 23 and level 24. This is because we need extra points to move to this tier, but none of these skills are especially useful to us right now. Okay, so at level 25, we take Tidal Force, and then we take Telekinetic Effusion, finish Telekinetic Effusion, Kinetic Collapse, and then Mental Alacrity, another skill, which goes on our bar. Next, we fill out Telekinetic Momentum with 3 points, and then Tremors with 1. And then we move up and we fill 5 points into Reverberation, and finally, we get Turbulence up at the top. Now we're at level 40. We have Turbulence that goes on our bar. Maybe we have to take one of those options off to fit it. And then we get to move, and we want to pick up Empowered Throw, which is down here. This is going to increase your telekinetic throw damage. As you can see, it buffs Project. So again, you might want to keep Project, but by and large, it's not really the design of the spec. Next, we put 2 points into Will of the Jedi, and then Critical Kinesis gets 2 points. Finally, we put 3 points into Penetrating Light, and that should fill us out with a nice telekinetics spec, which we can fit quite fine into our 2 quick slot bars. So that's really all there is to it. If you're interested in looking at this in text, there is a link to that below the video. And if you're interested in any of the other classes or specs, there's videos for all of them, along with text guides. So have fun playing Star Wars: The Old Republic.